Hello and welcome to AMTALK podcast series, The Untold Stories, with a very special episode today. We often talk a lot about $1 billion business empire, but we rarely talk about the very first footstep or the very footprints that create a path leading to the final success. What makes the journey possible? Back in the day in 1959, almost 70 years ago, in a small basement in Michigan, America, two close friends decided to start something from scratch. They started with 4 core beliefs: freedom, family, hope, and reward. And they called them the founders' fundamentals. How do we hold on to the core beliefs without losing ourselves along the way? The answer lies in 4 values we have to keep, which is partnership, integrity, personal worth, and responsibility. Think of it this way: if the founder fundamental are roots of a tree, then values are actually how the tree grow and bear fruit. And we're going to talk about the connection between founder fundamental and values today by sitting down with someone who did not just inherit this legacy, but he actually actively writing the next chapter. It's my honor to welcome to AMTALK podcast today, Mr. Doug DeVos, the co-chairman of Amway. Thank you, Mr. DeVos, for coming.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Good to be here.
It's an honor to talking to you today.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Welcome to the AMTALK podcast.
Excellent. Yeah. Happy
How is
to be
Vietnam
here.
treating you so far for this trip?
Oh, gosh, I love it. I love it. So this is my 6th trip to Vietnam, but it's been quite a while since my last trip. I think it's been 9 years. And the city, the country, you can just tell it's growing and developing and moving quickly. So it's so fun to be back.
First of all, I want to go back to your childhood memory a little bit, if you can recall.
Sure, I'll do my best.
How did your father, Mr. Rich DeVos, he bring the founder's fundamental, the 4 belief, freedom, family, hope, and reward? How did he bring those fundamentals to your daily life? I mean, not just business ideas, but is this actually the way your family had lived?
Well, you're exactly right. It's the way they lived. And so it's so before we even started to talk about those words, you just saw them being lived out. Dad always encouraged us to make our own decisions, to make our own choices. It was up to us. He gave us agency. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What are your aspirations, your goals? He always would talk about that. He would encourage and created a family unit. In a funny way, we created that, we were neighbors with the Van Andel family. So business and family was always connected. So they were our neighbors. So the Van Andels would be at our house, we would be at their house. We all grew up together in a very rural area in Michigan. And so basically we had each other. And creating that family atmosphere. He never allowed us to feel like we were stuck. If there was something going wrong, you were always going to work your way through it to get to a better place. So hope was something that he would always encourage. You had a bad test in school, you had a bad result at a sporting event, whatever the case may be, go practice, go study, go do something else. You'll work through it, you can be better, move on. And then there was always the rewards, the encouragement, the congratulations, great job, And we think of reward, only in a financial sense, but there's so many other rewards you get in life when somebody just encourages you, or it says, well done, whatever it can be. When you have that sort of interaction, that was the experience I had growing up, my whole life, in every aspect. I grew up as part of the Amway business. I went to events and those sorts of things. So I certainly saw them there, but I saw them in everything that he did.
Wow, such a good experience, how you grow up with this. Your father picked family. I think it's a very important factor between the 4 pillars.
Yes.
How did that family factor shape the bond between you and your siblings?
We always did things together. And to a certain extent, being in a rural area, there weren't a lot of other people, so you did things together. Your family became your best friends. The first person you would go to find somebody who could take care of you, who was cheering for you, who would support you, was your family. And so he created that atmosphere. He and my mother, they created that atmosphere. We took time to do things together, to have meals together. The simple things. If we had a chance for vacation, we would do that together. We would learn together. We would talk about things in the world. We would talk about business things. We would talk about personal things. But they were around the dinner table. It wasn't like Dad went to work and that was a different world. That world came back. And so as family, you always felt like you were part of something, and that the unit, when we were together, that we could work our way together, through any challenge that came our way, or maximize any opportunity that came our way.
Well, it's always good to have someone always, back you up.
Exactly.
Something like that, the whole family. There's hope factors in those 4 pillars that I want to ask you one question about that. Is there a moment that your father's, he used the hope factors to, say, pull you through a failure in life or setback in life or any challenging that you have to cope with at that time? Kind of live up your spirit a little bit with that hope factors. How does that hope playing out when you grow up?
I remember once when I was younger, and in elementary school, maybe I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. And I didn't think I could make friends. I didn't think I could make a friend with anybody, and I didn't have any friends or this sort of thing. And my father just, became aware of that, and he said, let me drive you to school. So we were in a rural area, so, he would drive to school. And the whole trip, he just encouraged me. You can do it. You can make friends. Just go out there. Just have courage. Just go introduce yourself. And he gave me a lot of things, to think about and to go do. And I remember him, dropping me off at the school, and I'm walking to the school, and from the car, he yells at me, "Go get him, Mr. Happy."
Wow, encouragement.
And I remember going to school that day feeling different. I remember saying, I can make a friend. I can do something different. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to step out. I'm going to have a little courage. Put that idea of hope, that we're not stuck, that you could move through it into action, and it impacted my life.
Sometimes all we need is a little hope and somebody pushing us a little bit, right? Just like that. If you could name one thing, what would be the greatest legacy your dad left to you? I mean, not just a business person, but as a person, not just in business.
Yeah. I think it's the culture that Mom and Dad set for us in our family. So the enduring, most impactful thing for me is that I lived every day watching him demonstrate those values in action, and then I could start to learn to do that too. And one thing he said, even as I got older, he said, I'm always going to be your father. Even though I was an adult with children of my own, I'm always going to be your father. I'm going to tell you what I see you doing well, what I see you doing poorly. And I'm going to keep coaching you, keep being a father for you. And that never ended up until the day he passed away. He was always thinking about that. And so that's the enduring legacy, is that he taught me about life and how to be a good person. Sure. And he demonstrated it himself.
That's what our parents always say, right? No matter how big we are, you'll always be my children.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always going to be his son.
Well, thank you. Let's talk about Amway.
Sure.
So in today's business context, Amway's vision is helping people live better lives.
Right.
So I'm just curious, how does that vision continue to reflect the philosophy that's established a long time ago by your father, Mr. Rich DeVos, and his friend, Jay Van Andel? Mm-hmm.
That statement, look at where it starts. It's about people. It's all about people. It's always been about people. The Amway business is about people connecting with people. It's about people helping people. It's about building relationships with people. So that's where it starts. And like the discussion we were just having, it's not just a business. It's not just about making money, although making money is important. It's not just about developing customers, although developing customers is important. All those elements. It's about living a better life. Right. And let me unpack that a little bit, because there was never anything prescriptive about Amway to say, this is what a better life means. This is what you have to do. If you want to be successful in Amway, you have to do this and this. Now, like I said, there's elements that you have to do to be successful, but we were never going to make the choice for somebody. So somebody's purpose for having a business of their own, for starting their own Amway business, was going to be their decision. They may have had a situation where, both spouses worked and they had a family and maybe one wanted to come home and do that. They may have had a choice they wanted to make as a family. They needed the finances to maybe, move to a different location or do something different. But it was going to be their choice. What's their goal? Because then they will do what's necessary to work to achieve what's important to them. So we never defined what better was, and we never do. It's not our goal. It's not a corporate goal that we need to achieve this, and so everybody has to go to work to make that happen. It flips it around the other way. What can we do so that you can achieve your goal? So we want to help people live a better life, and that definition of better is always up to the individual.
Carrying that DeVos name comes with a lot of privilege, yes, but at the same time, enormous pressure, I believe. Have you ever felt that sometimes your father's shadows get too big, that you doubt yourself? Or, what's the key difference between you and your father in work and in life?
In one respect, nobody could fill his shoes. My father was bigger than life, and Jay Van Andel, they're bigger than life characters. You could never fill their shoes. But I never felt pressure because, again, I was given a choice. Do I want to do this or not? Do I want to join Amway and be part of the Amway business, or do I want to do something else? I was given a choice. It was never put on me, and it was never said, you have to do it the way I did it. Now, there was a set of principles, the founding fundamentals and our values. There was expectations about how we would apply those principles. But they always left room for us to apply our own style in a new generation, understanding for what was happening in the marketplace. So I never felt pressure. I never felt like I had to do it. I never felt that they were saying, this is what you must do and this is how you must do it to carry on the family name. It was never done like that. It was, here's an opportunity, and you have the opportunity to take it forward. You have the opportunity to build on what we've started. You have the opportunity to make it and shape it in some sense in your own way. And that then connects, for me and my siblings and the Van Andels in the second generation, to say, well, we have to think that way about the next generation as well. And we have to create opportunity. We don't want to create pressure. We just want to say, if this feels right for you, if you believe that you can add value here and you can make a contribution here, then come join us and help us. But you don't have to do it our way. What's the new way? What's going on in the generation that you're a part of? How should we think about meeting the needs of that generation, because that's the rising generation, and we'd better be prepared for that. And so I think about that often. That's a great question. And it's one where there could be, and there's lots of examples of one generation passing on pressure to another. But that was never the case in ours. I'm very thankful for that. It was always about opportunity.
Speaking about principles that you just mentioned, your dad, your father's established a long time ago, was there a principle from your father that at first you didn't really buy in or fully understand or even disagree with at first, but later you realized that your father was correct? Yeah.
Maybe I just was too blindly listening, but I never felt I had a disagreement. I never felt I needed to prove anything different. Everything he said and they lived made sense to me. When I was in school, I'd have different friends that you would meet. You would make different experiences as you grow. You go to university, you go and you start meeting friends in a wider audience, and you just kind of observe people. And everything that they talked about and that they lived made sense to me, and I began to kind of see it in other people's lives. And you would see when people would behave a little bit differently than the things that we were taught, you would see a result that I didn't really like. I didn't want to go that direction. I liked this direction. I never felt like I had to argue with them. I had to question, I had to find it out for myself, but I was given the opportunity to test it. Go out in the world, go experience things, go make your own decisions if this is what you think is right. They always stood for what they believed in, and they gave me the chance to identify it and believe it myself. But I never really had a chance where I was fighting, or I said, I don't think I'm going to take that one, because I would just take it, but test it in my own life, and that made it more powerful for me, because I made my own decision to choose it, as opposed to feel like it was forced on me.
Wonderful. I've been looking at the founder fundamental, the freedom, family, hope, and reward, and alongside with the values that the Amway people are doing right now, which is partnership, integrity, personal worth, and responsibility. I realized those two things seem to be deeply connected. The fundamentals and the values. Could you explain why Amway kind of need both of those two things?
It's a great question again, because, when Dad and Jay, they started their relationship when they were young and in high school, right? And they built this relationship for many years before they started Amway. But these were the elements they talked about all the time when they were kids. We want to be in business for ourselves. We want to be able to make choices, freedom. We want to choose our own future. We want to have that ability to do that, right? And we want to do it together. As friends, they were kind of one family. They, like I said, they decided to live next to each other and start their own families, and the families were connected, so that was important to them. And hope, we're going to work through tough times. They grew up in the Great Depression in the United States. They had very significant challenges when they were young, and they saw their parents work through it. So they knew that there was always light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. There was a better future if we could just work through this tough time to get there. They were never going to be stuck. And then reward, they wanted to build that in there. Obviously, they wanted to achieve success. That was who they were. So I think of it sometimes like Simon Sinek, right? And start with why. They started with who. So the founders' fundamentals kind of represent who they are and why they did what they did. And then the values kind of go from there. And so when you take the values and you start to say, now this is how we're going to work every day. We're going to work in a spirit of partnership. We're going to be, full of integrity. We're not going to take shortcuts. We're not going to do things that are going to embarrass us later down the road. We're going to have that right up front. We're going to be responsible and accountable for our actions. And when we make mistakes, we're going to step up and say we've made mistakes. But we're always going to put the person up front, the personal worth, the value of each and every individual. In the act of the sales organization of sponsoring somebody or meeting somebody, this is a business opportunity that's available to anybody. And for years, people have tried to say, well, you might want to segment that a little bit. You only want people with experience, or you only want people, that have education. And Dad and Jay always rejected that. This is a business for everybody. And so that's important that every day when we go to work, we're thinking about people first, right? We're thinking about working together with people. We're thinking about maintaining the standards of integrity that we hold ourselves to. And we think about, the responsibilities that we have to be thinking about others, to be acting and planning and preparing for the future, to be adjusting for the market, to be, developing new products and doing all the things that we need to do as a good business to be successful for generations to come.
Sure, that's making sense. Everything is related to the fundamentals and the values. They're always related. Here's something I find it very fascinating. Those fundamentals go back to 1959, almost 70 years ago.
Yes.
But the values were formally named and structured by your generation during the transition, which is much later in the journey. So you feel that it was so important to formally define those values and put the words on paper?
Yeah. Well, it was important for our generation because in many ways in conversations, we would talk about these things and use these words, but it was important for us to say, we want it written down.
Right.
so that we know we're getting it right. So we have the confidence that when we articulate these ideas, we have the words that fit for our generation, that make sense to us, and so that we're able to communicate with others. This was a time when the business was growing dramatically. We were opening in markets around the world and expanding. And while we were taking over in our generation as their health was diminishing and as they were passing the torch, if you will, it was important for us to have these meetings and to write these words down and to talk about what they all meant so we clearly understood, so we could have the confidence to communicate them with future generations and with new people who were joining Amway. As the business was small in the beginning, it was easy. We all saw each other every day. You know, it was a small geography, so you could do that. But as it got bigger, we knew we would need to find the way to communicate more broadly and more consistently. And that's why we wanted to sit down and say, okay, how do we do this? And this is a similar exercise we're going through with the third generation. You know, even at this point now, they're saying, well, here's what that means to us. Here's how we would articulate it to the new people who are joining Amway today. It's the same principles, the same ideas, but how would we talk about it? So we continue to have that discussion so we can continue on for future generations.
Yes, everyone have something to look up to, written down like that, all the values. I mean, the partnership between your fathers and his friend back in the day, we don't often see a business partnership that lasts this long.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
from
right.
two friends in a small basement at that time to a third generation family bond. What is the secret to keeping this common thread unbroken? I mean, how had this spirit of partnership become the foundation for millions of families around the world?
Great question again, because they were unique. But I think there's a couple elements. One, they had a common vision. Like I said, from the time they were young in high school, they talked about things they wanted to do and that they wanted to do together. And so they consistently had that common vision, and they would talk about it and test it and refine it through those conversations, so they were very aligned on a vision. And the second one was common values. You know, so they had an aligned vision, they had aligned values. They believed the same things, everything that we're talking about here. They would, test each other with it, but they had that together. So they had that bond in the first place. And so those two things are important. But the third one is what keeps it going. They recognized that they were different. They had complementary capabilities. They had different skills. They had different things that they could bring to the party. And they valued that in each other. It wasn't like, well, I have this set of skills and I'm better than you. It's, I have this set of skills, but I don't have this set of skills, and we're going to need those skills if we're going to be successful. And I think that's the element that keeps us going as the business gets bigger, because everybody has to be part of the team, right? In a symphony orchestra, you can't all play one instrument. You need lots of instruments. You need lots of different people to make beautiful music. So aligned vision, aligned values, and complementary capabilities. Those are the elements that we keep thinking about and talking about today, because that allows us to welcome anybody in. Say, you don't have to be like me. If you're going to be successful in Amway, you need to kind of have the vision like we all have, because that's what we're working towards, and you need to be consistent with the values, because that's how we're working. And if you don't, that's going to be hard, But you don't have to be like us. You get to be you. And if you believe those things, then we can figure out how we make beautiful music together.
I mean, in your perspective, how do you see what kept the global Amway community tightly connected across generations? How do each person can find the right balance between freedom and personal worth?
Plays out, and the reason that the Amway business is able to stay together globally, it kind of plays out because of the way the business was designed and how we stay connected to each other. We all rely on each other. Right? The sales force, the field, the Amway business owners rely on the company. The company relies on them. And the way the compensation plan is structured, the way the overall legal positioning of the business is structured, it connects people to each other. If we're aligned and doing the same things and working together, it works beautifully. But if somebody wants to do something else, it just doesn't work that way. And we've had lots of people who would say, boy, this just isn't what I want to do, and they go do something else. And we know that because we meet them a lot. I'd be at many different business conferences, and people would seek me out. You're the Amway guy. And I say, yes, I'm the Amway guy. And they'd say, oh, I used to be in that. I used to be in Amway. When I was in college, I earned a little extra money, or my parents were in it, or my aunt was in it, or I knew somebody in town who was in Amway, and I delivered products, or I used the products, or I did this or that. But then I used it to go do something else. It's like, well, great. Good for you. But they were still a bit of an ambassador for us. They still liked the business. The business presumably helped them in one way, shape, or form. And I remember talking to a lot of Amway business owners who would say, we got to find a way to keep those people in. We're developing them, we're encouraging them, we're training them, we're helping them get to a next level. And then they go and they do something else. And then you'd stop and go, well, isn't that what we're supposed to do? If they want to go do something, and if we help them get there, haven't we still fulfilled our responsibility in some way? Okay, maybe they didn't stay with Amway and reach their ultimate goals with Amway, but if we help them take the next step, can't we take some joy in that and be happy for that? So I think there's that element of how it all stays together. These values do connect to all cultures. We've tested it. Freedom, family, hope, and reward. Just
it's
about
universal.
every country. That's universal. that makes sense, And then the way the business is constructed keeps us together. Yeah. So we can be a global business with incredible diversity, but yet be one Amway.
I mean, from the story of two families, I can see a strong foundation built on a family factor. But Amway is not just about DeVos and Van Andel family. This has become a family of millions of people around the world with different backgrounds, different personalities, and cultures. So how do you maintain, let's say, a shared Amway identity, but also at the same time still honoring personal worth? I mean, those two things ever come to tension anytime before?
Well, it always can come to tension.
Yeah.
But again, if we go back to our values and we have personal worth, we want to celebrate other people. So it's not like we say, well, Jay and Rich started all this, so we have a special spot. We have a role, but our goal is that other people could do the same. Right. So one of the things we do in Amway is we recognize people. We celebrate their success. We put them on stage. We don't always go on stage. We put them on stage. We want to hear from you. Tell us about your experience, what you've done to be successful. And we want to celebrate you. And Jay and Rich and my dad, they made room for that. I had a wonderful experience in Italy. We were recognizing, new qualifiers at a level, and it was a very modest level. It wasn't that big. And this one gentleman got on stage, and you would have thought he was the king of Italy. He was so excited, and he was talking about all that he'd done and all he'd accomplished, and was thanking all the people who'd helped him. And it was a beautiful thing. But it may have been the very first time somebody ever said, "You've done well. And we want to put you on stage. We want to congratulate you and let you tell your story. It's not only about our story." And I remember that all the time to keep thinking about how special it is, because there's so many people in life. And the older I get, the more you see it, where nobody ever told them they did a good job. Nobody ever told them they were special. Nobody ever told them they could achieve something great. And in Amway, that's what we do. Now it's up to them to do it. We can't do it for them. But if we have that mentality and we can keep people together, then everybody can celebrate together. And it's a beautiful atmosphere that the Amway business creates, that creates space and room for everybody to be recognized and celebrated.
Wonderful. That's why you have the hope factor, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about the journey and the people behind it. Now let's talk about the final destination, the result. Among the founder fundamental, reward is something every entrepreneur is chasing, the final outcome. So how do you, as leaders of a global organization like Amway, protect integrity? At the same time, you have, the pressure to grow, to doing business, to making money. That pressure is enormous. And at the same time, you have to protect integrity.
Well, again, a great question and a great topic because, being a family business, we don't have the pressures of quarterly reports. We don't have to go to the analysts or to the market to tell them all the great things we're going to do. We have to be true to ourselves. Now we want to be successful. We want to be the best we can be. We want the right results. When people earn a lot of money, that's wonderful. But did they do it the right way? And the test of that is, can they earn that money next year and the next year and the following year? Do the customers come back? Do they like your product? Do they like your service? Fast growth is always nice. But usually in a lot of businesses, and sometimes in the Amway business, fast growth just leads to fast decline. Did you build it right? Because why spend all that energy if you're just going to go down? Build it right over time. So standing the test of time became a very important element for us. And so, yes, there's pressure on the business to grow. Yes, there's pressure for us to meet the marketplace needs. You bet. I don't want to take that away, and I don't want to pretend that it doesn't exist, right? But we want to grow. Our horizon, our time horizon is 3, 5, 10, 15. Because if we're not better the next 10, 15 years in the future than we are today, then we didn't do the right things today. So don't measure us by today's results. Measure us by what we did today to get results tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Right. I can see integrity has become a core values for Amway, part of the DNA that's, defines the way in which people is doing their business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the moment when, upholding that integrity means sacrificing, short-term benefit for the company. Sure. Just like you just mentioned, so you have to look at the long term, right? So that means you have to sacrifice a lot, the major short-term gain, in order to achieve the long-term outcome, right? Exactly. And it's a specific moment like that.
Unfortunately, we've had too many of those. We've had a lot of that. And what I mean by that is, as the business has developed, we've structured the rules of how we should operate, right? And those are the rules that stand the test of time. They help us go the right way. But there are times when people violate those rules. And they try to earn volume, they try to earn income in a way that's not allowed.
Yeah.
And that isn't long-term, and that isn't sustainable. And over the years, we've gotten better at identifying that and preventing that and dealing with it. And so when I see it, and you see it, you identify it, you verify it, and you go, somebody is violating the rules, then you have to have the conversation with them and say, you can't be an Amway anymore. Of a company, if I go back in our history, we're a lot better at catching it faster today than we were. But if I go back to some of those times, you would see and you'd think everything's going great, and then you would start to see some information or gather information. You go, it's not. I have to say to somebody, I'm sorry, you can't do that. And if you want to do it right, okay, you're welcome. But if you're not going to change, then we have to part ways. And that costs volume. And that's okay. And so we miss targets, and we miss bonuses, and we miss those things. But those are the right things to do to protect the integrity of the business for the future. And so those are trade-offs that we have to go through all the time. And again, we've had product money-back guarantees from the beginning. Yeah. If we make a mistake in the product and there's a default or a defect, we recall it, we bring it back, whatever it costs. We service it, we take care of it. So it impacts everything we do. And when it costs us something, that's just the cost of being, of integrity. That's what it's going to be. And we'll make it up in the future. We'll figure it out. We'll solve the problem. We'll deal with the defect, whatever it was. But then we'll learn, and we'll get better, and we'll be okay in the future.
I see. Thank you for emphasizing that message. Very important message. As we're recording this podcast, we're marking 2 milestones at once. the Amway 65 years globally,
Yes.
and in Vietnam, that 20 years.
Yeah, we're
looking toward
getting
the
close,
anniversary. Getting close to 20,
Yes.
20th anniversary. What a journey. Along that journey, the same values and entrepreneurial spirit continue to define who Amway people are, the same values and the same spirits in the long journey. Very consistent.
Yes.
What makes this particular moment, Amway Global 65 and Amway Vietnam 20, meaningful to you?
Well, it's meaningful just because it's a point in time where we get a chance to celebrate. Where you can say, wow, we've made it 65 years. We've made it 20 years. There's a lot of businesses that don't make it that. They don't get the chance to celebrate anniversaries like that. And so it's meaningful because it's a point in time, and I like exactly the way you said, it's a milestone. It's not our destination. Our destination's still further out in the future. But it's a wonderful milestone, and it's a great opportunity to celebrate our accomplishments, to look back, to take stock of all the things that have happened, and to celebrate the work that people have done. You can never say thank you enough, right? You just can't. And let's take the time to celebrate and look back and have those memories. Remember when we started? Remember the business was so small? We didn't have any of these products. We didn't have any of this technology. We didn't have it. Oh, yeah. But we worked through it. Now here we are. But the important part of these celebrations and these milestones is that we're not stuck there. We can use it and say, now think about the next 20 years of Vietnam. Right? If we were able to do this in the first 20 years, think of what we could do in the next 20 years. And so we use it as a way to encourage us to set bigger goals, to have higher aspirations, to challenge ourselves to be even better, and to welcome the new generation. Because all the people that are joining Amway today, they weren't part of that past 20 years. And if we spend our whole life just looking to the past, they're going to say, there's no future for me. But if we say, here's the foundation, but we're looking forward, and you are going to be part of the next 20 years. You're going to be the ones who shapes that. You're going to be the ones in 20 years that are going to be on stage. You're going to be telling your stories, and then you're going to be doing it for the next generation as well. That's why it's so important for us to do these sorts of things.
It's such a long and shining road ahead for people here in Vietnam.
Yes.
And look at the country and the company right now in Vietnam.
Amazing.
What surprised you the most about how far it has come?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say I'm surprised, because in all the times you've seen the trend, you've seen where it's going. It's so dynamic. It was in my first visits. So I don't know if I'd say surprised, but it's the realization of the spirit and the energy that exists here. For many years we did a study with a university in Germany, and it was the Entrepreneurial Index, the Amway Global Entrepreneurial Report. And we studied different countries around the world, and Vietnam was always number one. This had the most entrepreneurial spirit. It had the most optimism about the future. It had of any country around the world. And so that's why I'd say it just gives me joy to see it being realized, to see it happening. To see what people have worked so hard to accomplish, and knowing that they're just getting started. The future for this country is dynamic and wonderful, and you can see the trends of where it's been, but most importantly where it's going. And that's what's so fun to come back and see and go, wow, it is really progressing. It's really gaining momentum and moving forward. So that's great fun. So I can't wait to come back and on my next trip and see the next steps that have been taken.
I see. I mean, Vietnam is such a young and fast-moving market for Amway. How do you see that, entrepreneurial spirit of the Vietnamese people connects with the founders' fundamental that your father established almost 70 years ago?
Yeah. Maybe the best way to articulate it is you take all this energy, all this entrepreneurial spirit, and perhaps Amway and the founders' fundamentals give everybody a way to channel that energy, where it could just go all over the place. And it does. In the marketplace, it does. Everything is happening, lots of entrepreneurial activity going on. But for some people, they go, okay, those founders' fundamentals make sense to me. Those values make sense to me. This is a place where I want to I want to put my focus on it. Because that was, my dad and Jay, they wanted to be in business. And they tried lots of different things. But then they found this. And they said, this is what we're going to do. And perhaps the connection with a person is that they see us talk about freedom, family, hope, reward. I trust they see us operating in a way with integrity and with valuing them as a person and taking responsibility for our actions and working in the spirit of partnership. Maybe they see that and they go, wow, this is a place where I can take all this energy that I have, all this ambition that I have, and the talents and skills that I have, and if I apply them here, I can achieve my goals. So I think that's the connection that we're trying to make, and we're seeing that happen.
I see. Amway Vietnam, well, we aim to reach the global top 7.
Yes.
How does those values can be served as a compass for us to achieve that ambitious goal?
The compact, it's always going to be there, and regardless of what is achieved with that goal or not, if we stay true to those things, we always would say, because there's always this constant thing, we want to be bigger, right? You got to be bigger. You want to grow, you got to be bigger. But the first thing you need to do is get better. The Founders' fundamentals and the values are always about getting better. And if we do a good job getting better, if we make better products, if we service customers better, if we apply technology better, if we do all these sorts of things, then the bigger part will take care of itself. My father was at a finance division conference many years ago, and they're all looking at the numbers of the company, and my dad said, there's only one thing I look at. He says, if the distributors are being successful, if the business owners are being successful, then the company's going to be just fine. And that's true today. If we're doing what we need to do by servicing and providing, the right products at the right time in the right way, and all those sorts of operational elements to support, the Amway business owner, and we're doing that better every day, then the bigger part will take care of itself. And so once they're successful, then everybody else can join in that success.
Sure. Amway Global is looking towards the anniversary of 70 years.
70 years, yeah.
And in Vietnam, we look forward to the 20th anniversary. Those are big ambitions. But beyond numbers, what is the one commitment that you hope everybody will hold on to?
I think the overriding commitment is to the new person, the new customer, the new prospect, the new Amway business owner. We were at a event of the top leaders around the world, the top Amway business owners around the world, and Father was talking to them and said, "You're all really important. You're great. What you've done. Thank you. But the most important person in Amway today is the new person, the person that's just joining." The person that's just, buying our product, using our product, experiencing Amway for the first time. And it's up to us, all of us, to work together to ensure that new person is having a great experience, that they see their future with Amway. And if that happens, then our future is secure. So it's up to us. The overriding focus is how do we help that new person, those first early steps in their business, in their journey, and how do we continually challenge ourselves to get better and to meet the needs of the market and to do that effectively. And so we can help people get on the journey so they can achieve their goals. And if we keep doing that, I think that's what I would say is the overriding sense for what we have to do. Because if we get stuck in the past, if we get stuck with doing things the way we've done today and we don't want to change, another phrase a friend of ours said, if you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction.
Right.
And so we want to make sure we embrace, and we're always focused on the new person. We're always focused on the marketplace and being the best that we can.
I have learned that health and well-being is central to the journey that Amway is heading. How do you personally find the balance in three things, that happiness, health, and success?
Yeah. Well, they all kind of connect, don't they?
Yeah.
Again, a great question. We have, tremendous position in the nutritional space. We farm our own materials. We have great science and research that we've demonstrated for decades. The Nutrilite brand has always been a strong element of the Amway business. And so health and happiness kind of go together, don't they? It's hard to be happy if you're not feeling well. If you're feeling well and you're happy, you're probably going to be successful because you're going to be doing the things that you want to do. And it also allows us to broaden the idea of health. It's not just physically healthy, but are you emotionally healthy? Are you building great relationships with people? Are you mentally? Are you thinking well? Are you financially healthy? Are you planning for your future? Are you paying attention to these sorts of things? And so we can think of health in the broadest sense. While we're very focused on health and well-being and lifespan and helping people live a warm, full life and be healthy, prevent disease from the beginning by good nutrition and good lifestyle habits. That's the main focus for us. But all the three elements that you talked about are definitely connected. And so the Amway business opportunity, maybe fills kind of the financial bucket a little bit more, maybe the personal relationship bucket. The Nutrilite products fill the physical bucket, right? And then if you're setting a goal and working hard to achieve it, and you achieve that goal, that's the source of happiness. I did something. I've accomplished something. And at the end of the day, that's what brings joy. I set a goal. It was hard. I had to work hard to achieve it. But now that I got there, I have a chance to celebrate. And then set the next goal.
Yeah, right.
and keep the process going.
Sure. So for the young ABOs from Amway to get started, what would be your message to them? I mean, how should they begin with fundamentals and values to build something that really lasts?
I think the message to somebody starting an Amway is welcome. We want you to be here. Yeah. We value you. You're important to us. And we want you to see a future here. We want to be a place where we create the atmosphere, where we create the environment, where we create the culture that's attractive to you. And we want you to challenge us. We want you to challenge us to be better. So for the new person joining, we want to start with that introduction. But we also want to be able to say to the new person, this is who we are. You need to understand that so you can make a decision. Sure. And if you see your future in Amway, then that's where it is. But if you look at us and you know who we are, the founders' fundamentals and the values, and you go, not for me. Okay. And like I said with some of our other success stories, we wish you the best luck. What can we do to help you to get to where you want to go? Sometimes we would be interviewing for senior positions or executives at headquarters. The first thing we would say to them after they came in is they would walk by the displays that we have with freedom, family, hope, reward, and we said, if you walked by those and you said, wow, that's great, I'm home, well, then you might have a place here. But if you walked by those and you went, oh, these people seem weird, then maybe this isn't the right place for you.
Right.
So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to be as transparent and honest and clear as we can about who we are, why we do what we do and what we do. And we want you to know there's a place for you. And if that connects, if you got aligned vision and aligned values, wherever you're from, this is a place where you can be successful, and let's help you do it. But it's always going to be the person's decision because we value who they are.
And thank you for all your advices. And good luck with your journey. And we look forward to welcome you in the 20th anniversary in Vietnam.
Yes. Thank you very much. Great the conversation. Great questions.
Thank you. And we hope that from the conversation with Mr. Doug DeVos here, the co-chairman of Amway, that could help you understand clearly about the connection between the founder fundamental and the values and what that means for us to do in our life and our business. To build freedom, you must practice responsibility. To strengthen your family, you must honor personal worth. And to sustain hope, you must embrace partnership. And to achieve meaningful reward, you must uphold integrity. And if you live with those values day by day, you're going to have a strong foundation for your success in career and in life. So thank you so much for watching us, and see you next time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.